Lot. And Brian, I apologize about this delay. Over to Beto, who's going to talk about you, and sorry about the delay.
No problem.
Magda, thank you, Brian. Thank you, Gareth. That was amazing. That was inspirational. I have not the charisma of Magda, but I will do my best. Today I will present to you Brian Forrest, who was the latest, including winner of the Golden Bat Award last year, with his research on Blackula, if I am not wrong. And I will read now your bio here. Brian, just a second. Brian Forrest blogs and vlogs as Toothpickings and has been writing about the intersection of vampire and fiction, folklore, and history for several years. He's currently working on a short documentary about director William Crane, who directed Blackula. Emergard the Vampire. Please, Brian, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me back. It's been great seeing the presentations that I've been able to catch this year. In fact, it seems like I'm looking at my top row of Zoom. And I think that's everybody whose presentations I've seen is right on the top row. Hans, Yuri, Sean, Gareth. And there's been a couple others I've caught pieces of. It's been really great. So thanks for joining me here on the home stretch of the Children of the Night Conference 2023. I have some things to show you in a PowerPoint if I can get permission to share a screen. And some of these visuals have not been seen online before. So I'm hoping some of these are new to the folks here joining us today. Let me see if I can.
You should be able to share it now.
All right. Well, earlier this year, the vampire world celebrated the 275th anniversary of the first known vampire-themed poem, Heinrich August Ossenfelder's Dear Vampire. I'm supposing many of you have already seen this poem or have come across it. It seems like when any of us start to get interested in vampires, at some point, this poem gets put in front of you and displayed as the first example of vampires in creative fiction. I'm not going to do an analysis of this poem. That's not my strong suit. My strong suit is making bad memes that are funny to me and probably to people who are speak American English, and probably nobody else. In fact, I think Hans was really confused when he saw this earlier, and I had to explain to him, but listen, it's funny if you're from here. I do want to refresh the memories of anyone who has come across this poem before, or for the benefit of anybody who maybe has not encountered Ossenfelder's poem before. I could not find it online in German anywhere, and I'm not going to subject you to my recitation. I found what I think is a pretty good recitation. I put the German text over the top of it, so I will be quiet and let this play for a moment.
My dear young maiden clingeth unbending, fast and firm, to all the long-held teaching of a mother ever true. As in vampires, unmortal folk on Theseus' portal, Heider-like, do believe. But, my Christine, thou dost dally, and wilt my loving parry till I myself avenging to a vampire's health a-drinking, him toast in pale Tokay. And as softly thou art sleeping, to thee I shall come creeping, and thy life's blood drain away. And so shalt thou be trembling, for thus shall I be kissing, and death's threshold thou'lt be crossing with fear in my cold arms. And last shall I thee question, compared to such instruction, what are a mother's charms?
There's a possibility that this poem from 1748 wouldn't even be known today had it not been footnoted by Stephen Hawke and by Montague Summers in The Vampire, His Kith and Kin. Curiously, Summers was writing in English, but he left the poem in German. And so it's kind of a little bit of a head scratcher when exactly anyone was able to read this poem in a language other than German. Now, this is a question that I got interested in earlier this year. Hans was interested in it. Before us, Heidi Crawford and J. Gordon Melton had both been interested in it. Nobody was able to find a version that was a translation of Der Vampire, if you can believe it, before 1985. In this publication that was not even that widely circulated. The translator, Aloysius Gibson, kind of a mysterious figure, Canadian, was really obsessed with Montague Summers, said he was going to publish something about Montague Summers. As far as I know, that never happened. I can't find any other publications from Aloysius Gibson. But he did think that this was the first translation that he knew of. So maybe it's true that it took over 200 years for this poem to be translated into any language at all. There could be a translation into a language other than English that has just not come to certainly my attention. And maybe one of you out there have already come across an earlier than 1985 translation. I would love to see it if so, because frankly, it boggles my mind that Summers could have reprinted this poem in 1928 and nobody thought to issue a translation of it in any language up until 85. But all of that is kind of beside the point. That's all kind of background for what we really want to talk about today. The two key questions I want to answer are, why does this poem exist? And was it really the first appearance of vampires in creative fiction? Or is there another candidate for that title that has been under our noses this whole time? By the end of this, I hope to address that question. Short bit of background. I don't have to go into a lot of detail here at this conference about this, but you'll all recall there was a lot of weird stuff being documented in the 1700s in Eastern Europe. Reports of people getting out of their graves and terrorizing the living. No big deal. This image right here is actually from Varney from the 1800s because I could not find Arnold Paul's high school yearbook photo. I'm still looking for that one. It was in this environment that tales of dark resurrections occurring and be investigated that you start to have these publications come out. If you saw Hans's presentation a couple days ago, you saw some of these and more. There were a lot of these and they got very popular. We're talking the Guns, Germs, and Steel of 1746 with Calmet's treatise on apparition spirits and vampires, etc., etc., etc. Wanting to be in this mix is Christoph Milius. He publishes a short-lived journal called Der Naturforscher, or The Naturalist. There are actually two publications in this era called The Naturalist. Christoph Milius is this one. It only exists for about a year. Another one goes on much longer. This is so just to keep it straight, Milius's Der Naturforscher is the one we will be talking about if anyone decides to look into this a little further. Issues 47 and 48 of Der Naturforscher dealt with the vampire phenomenon as it was being discussed in Europe. The articles appear to be an overview for the mainstream reader on the findings and commentaries of people like Calmet and Rampt. And the tone is dismissive of the whole vampire phenomenon, which is pretty much in line with the conversations being held in the cities at that time. The issue you see on the left there is from the issue number 48. It takes the form of a letter being written to someone named Isaac. In issue 47, you see it beginning with Dear Isaac. Now, who is Isaac? That is a critical question. And I would like you to put a mental pin in who is Isaac, because that is going to come back to be very important in a moment. I want to linger for a minute about what's striking on the context here. This is a serious journal. It's not perhaps the New England Journal of Medicine, but it's at least Popular Mechanics and National Geographic. Or if you feel like that is being too generous, it's at least Ranger Rick of the 1700s. The Naturalist is not a collection of fiction, and it's not sensational. It is not the 18th century equivalent of 10 ways to know if your boyfriend is a vampire. It is measured, it is reasonable, it is rational, it is scientific. And I'm emphasizing all that because it's important to understand how vampires begin to enter fiction. It's not in the Penny Dreadfuls, and it's not in comic works, and it's not even in paintings. It's in the pages of a scientific journal, which makes sense because it is only in the scientific journals that vampires are being discussed. Heidi Crawford put it like this: the vampire phenomenon, as it was investigated in the 18th century, was initially a scientific phenomenon, which in turn explains why debates on this subject were conducted at universities and why the first poem with a vampire theme is published in a scientific journal. So I have to give credit to the scientists and not necessarily the fiction authors for bringing the vampire to us. So large credit to our most famous vampire scientist, Grandpa Munster. Milius, the publisher of Denatra for sure, would often punctuate his articles with something a little bit lighter. It is a poem in this case. So he asks a young man of letters named Heinrich August Ossenfelder to pen a short, spicy poem that would kind of put a bow on his 2 letters articles about vampires. And Ossenfelder delivers. He wrote in the style of the Greek poet Anacreon. Anacreon was a favorite of Ossenfelder's. He would write several more poems in this style. The book you see on the right came out in 1911, but it has a collection of 6 or 7 different poems by Ossenfelder, all in the style of Anacreon. Curiously, Der Vampire is not included in that. Anacreon had he had a certain style, let's say. I'm not going to recite this poem for you, but I'm going to put it on screen, and I'm going to take a drink of water. And I think that's long enough for everyone to get the general idea. It's lurid, it's suggestive, it's dirty old man poetry is exactly what Anacreon was. So when I read Der Vampire, it seems pretty dark and rapey to me. But I have to wonder, given that it is in the style of someone like Anacreon, was the intent for it to be lighter and more playful? And is that how it would have been read by the readers in the mid-1700s? I don't have a time machine to tell you for sure. And this kind of dovetails with something Yuri was talking about earlier. But I have to wonder, how was it read at the time? Ossenfelder himself would have known about the great poets because he grew up with one. He graduated school the same year as his classmate, Gottfried Lessing, here at the St. Alpha School. In fact, this image that you see would have been made, at least the date on it that I found, was at the same time that Ossenfelder would have been attending the school. There is no photo or drawing or painting of Ossenfelder that I've ever become aware of. So I like to pretend that he's one of these people kind of in the bottom of the screen wandering around the school. St. Alpha still stands. It was, a highly regarded school, and it gave him the kind of background he needed to serve as a civil servant, sort of a clerk of court in several German towns while he was publishing books of plays and verse, and not 1, but 2 books about men's boots and women's shoes and their histories. Now that, I would suggest to you, is range that Lessing never has. Lessing wasn't writing nonfiction about footwear while doing his plays. Ossenfelder had that kind of talent. Ossenfelder's death record is also a little bit strange. First of all, he would not have been 68 when he died. This is an approximation. I had a really hard time making out any of this, and if you had a hard time making this out, you're not alone. I sent this to Hans earlier this week, luckily, and Hans was able to make out a kind of antiquated word for a stroke, which is new information. Ossenfelder died of a stroke. Who knew? Nobody, because nobody had bothered to look at this in such a long time. His name is misspelled and his age is wrong, which suggests to me that he may have died in a place where he had no close family or relations to get his age right or his spelling of his name wrong. But I am confident that this is the correct entry for Ossenfelder's death. But I do have to admit something to you, which is when I was looking into his biography, I did get the distinct impression that there was another Heinrich Ossenfelder alive in Germany around the same time as our poet. To make matters worse, this Heinrich Ossenfelder also did some writing. So it could be possible that Shoe Guy is separate from Poet Guy. I did not have time to wrap that up before this, but I wanted to make anyone who decided to look into Ossenfelder's biography aware. Be on the lookout for a second doppelganger Ossenfelder. The fact that we know so little about Ossenfelder and his facts are kind of muddy underlies the fact that he wasn't of great renown, and neither was his poem. In fact, it's kind of accidental that we're even talking about it. The fact that Assenfelder would have wrote the first poem to make reference to a vampire does seem to be largely accidental. It's a historical curiosity. And he never capitalized on it. Like I said before, he never republished this. He never tried to make any kind of hay out of the fact that he beat everybody to the punch. And I want to give the guy a little bit of slack here. I mean, he was 22 when he wrote this poem. If it's not the greatest poem ever, yeah, I wouldn't, under the threat of torture, show you the stuff I wrote when I was 22. I can't blame Assenfelder for keeping that one under the coat. I don't know how much we would even know about this poem if it had not been footnoted in Kith and Kin and elsewhere. Was it even known by some of the earlier poets? Had Goethe read it? Had Berger? Had Byron? I am not aware of any evidence that any of them were even aware of this poem. Being the first vampire poem doesn't make you an influential vampire poem. But if that's so, if Der Vampire did not influence anything that came after it, how is it that Assenfelder keyed in on all of these elements that, without any frame of reference in any earlier fiction, how did he take a being that had only been described as a walking corpse or a spirit and sexualize it, just like all the other authors later would who wanted to have a quote-unquote successful vampire? It makes me wonder, is it inevitable that a vampire would be portrayed as being sexy? Now, two possibilities here. Three. I'll give you three possibilities. Maybe Assenfelder just plucked it out of his brain. Second possibility, Assenfelder was just such a fan of Anacreon that, of course, when he was tasked with writing a vampire poem, he was going to go the dirty old man route with it. That is a distinct possibility to me. But I'm going to offer you one other possibility. As we discussed earlier, Assenfelder borrowed very liberally from the other nonfiction works at the time. And if you read Hans's paper from earlier this spring, I have to keep saying Hans's name to make sure he's still awake in the Philippines. If you read Hans's paper from earlier this spring, you will see where Hans has taken verses from the poem and lined it up with some of the accounts. And it's not a word for word, but it is very clear that Assenfelder is taking references and, you know, fitting them to his poem. Not quite every line, but damn near every line, it seems like. So it would be no surprise to me if Assenfelder was aware of other events going on. For example, the same year that Der Vampire is published, in 1748, there are reports surfacing of vampires raping people in Dalmatia. Croatian chronicler Balthazar Adam Krellic in his Annuae mentions the case of a vampire from the northern Croatian village of Patak. While other sources of that period emphasize, in the first place, the horrible, deadly consequences of a vampire's attack, Krellic deals with vampire-like sexuality. He stated that vampires mingle with women and perform sexual acts, and that the vampire did so with more strength than while alive. Does that not sound to you shockingly like our poem? Now, I've got to burst my own bubble here for a minute, because this report comes out after Der Vampire is published. However, there are reports of sexual and raping vampires even before this. In her article, Vampires in the Villages of Dubrovnik in the 18th Century, Irina Binyovsky identifies 3 cases over the course of many years before Der Vampire was published, where sexual terror was the leading reason that villagers were digging up graves to kill suspected vampire rapists. Could some awareness of this have made it back to Assenfelder? Given that Assenfelder clearly did his homework, he got the region right, he got the occupations right, he got the wine right, the right wine for where these vampire scares were taking place. Is it inconceivable that some of this made it back to him as well? I don't think it's inconceivable. Can't prove it. Don't think it's inconceivable. There's one last thing I want to talk to you about. And this is either the big payoff for you sticking it out for one of the very final presentations of Children of the Night, or this might be, you know, the biggest disappointment and you wish you would have taken a nap before your big trip to Brand tomorrow. Do you remember how, like, for the last 100 years, we've been saying that Der Vampire is the first piece of creative writing to feature a vampire? And I sort of intimated that over the course of this presentation, although if you play it back, you will see I chose my words very carefully. Well, do you also remember how I said that there is, Der Natural for sure is a letter to someone named Isaac? Well, who is Isaac? Well, as Stefan Haack recognized a long time ago, and as Hans pointed out to me earlier this past spring, the articles for Der Natural for sure were plagiarized from Jean-Baptiste Boyer de Argen's book, Lettres Juives, or The Jewish Letters. Now, let's all sit down for a second and acknowledge the fact that plagiarism took place in the world of vampire writing. That's not why I want to beat up on anybody. The point is that The Jewish Letters is an epistolary novel. Isaac is a character, and Aaron is another fictional character who is writing a letter to his fictional friend Isaac. So what I can't get over is, while the content of this particular letter is largely a discussion, is it not fiction? I think it is. And I think what we are looking at here is the first case of a vampire theme being used in a work of creative writing. An epistolary novel, as you all know, because we've all read Dracula, are fake letters being written back and forth. That is all the Jewish letters are. And vampires pop up a bunch in these letters. I've circled a bunch here, but guess what? This is from a English translation of one of the later letters. This isn't even the letter that appears in Der Natural for sure. Vampires pop up a lot in the course of this book. So, is the French novel The Jewish Letters, and not the German Der Vampir, deserving of the designation of the first appearance of vampires in creative writing? And if it's not, I hope that someone here at this conference will tell me why it's not, because you'd be doing me a huge favor, because honestly, I don't want the responsibility of having to go around and tell everybody that they've got it wrong on Der Vampir. So someone please take this load off my shoulders. But also, while we're doing that, let's line this up with something like Plato's Republic, right? Plato's Republic is a dialogue. They are discussing largely philosophical and nonfiction topics, but they are characters, and the words are being inserted into these conversations that are being imagined. Some of these characters are fictional, some of them are historically fictional. Is Plato's Republic a fiction? It is almost always characterized as a fiction. And if Plato's Republic is a fiction, so is the Jewish Letters. And so we have an earlier case than Der Vampir of a vampire theme within a work of creative writing. I agree that this is a grave disappointment to me. I really want a walking, talking vampire to be the first, but on a technicality, I might be stuck with something else. Ossenfelder's contribution to vampire literature, listen, it didn't set the world on fire. It would be later better known poets like Goethe who would sort of legitimize the vampire as a literary figure. And of course, that leads to someone like Polidori, who brings in the English prose, who then influences Bram Stoker, la-di-da. Here we all are today because of that. And despite what I have said or what I have tried to assert today, I do think the poem deserves more than a footnote. And I hope that in some small way, I've illuminated a little bit of the story of Ossenfelder and how Der Vampir came to be today. I want to give this image right here. You may have seen this if you saw Hans's presentation a couple days ago. This is the actual first appearance of Der Vampir. And if you were curious, when vampires stopped being discussed as theoretical nonfiction discussions about whether or not they exist and then became a part of the imagination, 3/4 of the way down the left-hand page where you see all those asterisks, that's the square inch where that happens. We can now visually look at when vampires become more of imaginary monsters than what they had been used as earlier before. Thank you, everyone. I want to thank the people who made this possible. Deborah Fallick, Hans de Roos, Stephen Moore, John Heimbuch, the Frankfurt Institute for Urban History, St. Alphys Princely School, the Ernst Mayr Library at Harvard, the Georgetown University Library, the Hennepin and Ramsey Library Systems, and you know what? Generally, librarians and libraries all around. Without their help, this would have been a much, much weaker presentation. And I hope I left a little bit of time at the end for questions. I'm sorry that we started a little late and went a little late.
Thank you,
That's the
Brian.
end. Thank you.
It was amazing presentation. I remember this poem in college when we are told that this is the first vampire poem and vampire literally vampire and culture their vampire. Here in Brazil, they put a lot of effort in the translation and the part of the wine of the beverage. I don't record the English translation you show it, but I don't see it in a lot of the drink the vampire has to drink to become a vampire and kidnap his lover. So I just want to say that here in Brazil the translation of this poem in Portuguese have a I guess they put the wine and where the wine was made and some kind of more information about this poem. I will ask everyone if you have questions or remarks, please. Magda, there's some in Transylvania I can see, but here, hands, please.
Oh no, hands. This is gonna hurt.
No. You have nothing to fear. I'm impressed. We talked about the ins and outs of this poem quite a lot during this summer, and you managed to tickle out new details I was completely unaware of, and I like this kind of research. That you really go to back in time and find the original sources, find the original books, the original titles. I love it, and I'm impressed. And you also beat me to the question: was Lettres Juives the first mentioning of vampires in fiction? Because I simply walked over that. You found out that it is a legitimate instance of vampires being mentioned in fiction. You're right. It is mostly a philosophical discourse, but it is not a scientific book. It is written for entertainment. So you're right. I mean,
Well, you blew me away when you told me that it was lifted without attribution, Hans, because I had always assumed that that article in De Nature for sure was just Christoph Milius kind of cobbling together what he had been reading from some other people. I had no idea that it had already existed, but then to follow that back and look into what was it's hard for me to wrap my mouth around Lettres Juives, the Jewish letters, to realize that was an epistolary novel was another slam to the head of the story of how vampires entered fiction.
Yeah, it's fair game. You're right. You can go back till 1736 was the first publication, so we're 12 years back in time now. I was shocked, by the way. I must say I was shocked when I read the English translation, because I read it both in French and in German. I go back to my notes. Here's a girl who, by her crying out, pretends to have avoided being fucked by a vampire.
All the S's look like F's. Yeah.
Or sucked.
Yeah.
You're right. It's an S.
It is very amusing to read the English version with those S's that look like F's and be like, whoa, this is dirty.
This dirty, yeah. Because you to connect it with your observation that this is about sexuality, that he is sexualizing the vampire, and that rape cases have been described earlier. Yeah, this is ambiguous, at least, if you don't know the sharp S that they used at that time. One more remark. These cases you mentioned of rape, they are predating Arnold Paule, because Paule was also told to have had sex with his wife, and she noticed that the semen was cold. So she must have experienced something. I never came across those instances, so that's also something new you brought to the table.
Read somebody else. I certainly didn't go dig into the archives to find them.
I loved your presentation. It is
thank you,
still
Hans.
bringing more new aspects that have not been discussed till now.
Thank you so much.
Well, we have one more question here. Sean, please.
That was outstanding. That was absolutely outstanding. Yeah, no, I always forget, like, until I see you on screen again, what an excellent storyteller you are. And the whole, like, this whole presentation, I was like, who is Isaac the whole way through? So that was absolutely riveting. Again, like, this is why I love you know, your episodes on your YouTube channel, is because I learn so much every time you decide to tackle a subject. And this is why I love this Congress, is because every time I sit down in front of it, I learn all kinds of stuff that is brand new research right here. And this is to look at the actual page from the printed book where the vampire becomes a fictional character is, I mean, like when you said that this is why we're all sitting here, is because of the words after this row of asterisks. Totally mind-blowing.
I think you just said it better than me. I should have. I'm going to borrow that phrase if I ever say this again. The words after this row of asterisks.
No, that was absolutely great, absolutely great. And so I guess after wanting to heap praise on you, my question is, as someone who has never heard of the Jewish letters, what is it about?
I'm going to start by saying I have not read all of them. It's a lot. There's several volumes, and I looked at the parts that had to do with vampires in the time I had, but from sort of a cursory look, it is like 5 rabbis in Europe writing letters back and forth to each other, largely about what their thoughts are on whatever is happening currently. I think, without having read the whole thing, that disclaimer, it seems to be that it was Boyard d'Argen's way of getting some ideas out of his head about, you know, the affairs of the day, and, you know, his take on, you know, actions and philosophical thoughts. It's one of those books where, you know, at the very beginning it says, hey, I found all these letters and I have typed them all up, you know, very much like Dracula would do later. So please enjoy these things that I have had nothing to do with, and I certainly didn't do any kind of editing on. You kind of very almost proto-Gothic, because that happens so much in the Gothic.
That's awesome. Thank you very much. This was
Thank you,
fabulous.
Sean. I really appreciate that.
I guess, Alba, you are raising your hand, or?
Yeah, I was. Thank you for noticing. All right, so that was brilliant. I love it. I love it.
Thank
to
you,
bits.
Alba.
I mean, every part of it, you are so good at communicating. I was totally enjoying your presentation. And also, I wanted to say something that actually is Sean, right? I'm not pronouncing your name wrong, right? The person that told before me, Sean. Okay, so that's wonderful. When Sean said, I love coming here, you know, because I discover new things about a topic that I love. I was like, dude, I just felt exactly the same thing listening to Brian, exactly the same thing. And also, you know, it can be, I want to share something like a very little thing. It can be very discouraging when you're a PhD student, as I am at the moment, and you are researching on a topic, Most of the time, people who don't know about the topic deeply usually are like, oh, but everything has been said about that already. And just like that, you know, and you're like, okay, thank you for saying exactly what I don't want to hear, because this is not constructive criticism at all, and also because you're not right. But you know, it's very, when you are pursuing a PhD, it's very easy to get discouraged, to think, okay, maybe I should go, like a friend of mine says, to go bake cookies or something, do another thing that feels more productive, you know, than being here researching on my own, you know, when practically people never know what it entails because people are not familiar with research, like people that are outside academia. So I really want to thank you guys for organizing this. I hope to meet you all, or the majority of you, next year, maybe in Brasov. Thank you so much. Thank you, Brian, for the presentation. Thank you for giving us the people that are like starting to deal with academia professionally. And I love this topic to be, it's like the energy to be like, okay, there are things to uncover. People are proving that constantly. Whatever the people that don't know about this say, we don't care. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you. And I agree. There's continually new things being found. And it's amazing that this many years after some of these real seminal works were published, that we're still like unearthing really critical and kind of earth-changing facts and images. And I'll just say, since it doesn't look like there's any more questions, but thank you to the team that puts this together. Thanks for having people like non-academics like myself and Sean and Gareth, allowing us to come and mingle with you and talk about these ideas that we're all very interested in. This has been really great. Thank you.
Guys, thank you so much. Sorry, Beto, I'll give the microphone back to you. But one thing, Brian, I don't even think about you as a non-academic person. The same with Sean. That's why, you know, nothing, it never even came to my mind. I just don't consider you to be up from outside academia, guys, especially with your excellent researches and what you're doing in the field, not just at this conference, but in the field in your channels.
Thank you.
But thank you so much for nice words. Beto, sorry, I stole the mic.
You're welcome, Magda. I just want to say that it was a brilliant presentation, Brian. I was astonished. Congratulations.
Okay, we have Florin with us, and guys, looks like the Congress is over, which is weird because we started 3 days ago, and it seemed like this is going to be so long and so difficult to make everything work. And now we're at the end of the 3rd day, and it's just amazing. And I feel fantastic, although I haven't left this room for about 3 days. So thank you so much. So let me just call all my partners in crime, because I have a tendency of monopolizing the microphone, for which I apologize. Next to me is Florin Nekita of the Transylvanian University of Brasov in Transylvania. And that is the guy who made it all possible here, that we can sit in the venue on here.
Because what happened here, especially on the internet, is thanks to Magda and dealing with all the abstracts and all the and all the this registration and also I have to make a promise, so that I should take care together with Yuri, Magda, and Enrique for the book of abstracts for 2 editions, because the last edition we didn't publish the book of abstracts for the last edition, so we'll make a book of abstracts for the last 2 edition. Yeah, so I hope that in January will be ready, but to not forget about the long articles. So for a special number in the Transylvania, let me show them.
Okay. So Florin had another of 500 ideas that he has every second. So he'll be back in a moment. And let me, in the meantime, now he's getting back. So let's wait for him. Very excited about something.
So
you need to show it to the camera. Like. So you can even approach. and dance for us. This is our baby because we, for the first time in ever, this weekend we actually held it in our hands, and this is the book that we published 2 years ago in 2021 after the Congress, and that's a special edition of Transylvania University of Brasov Bulletin, dealing in cultural studies, and 4 of us. It's myself, it's Florin Nekita, it's Hans de Roos, and Christian Pralea from this university as well, who are guest editors of this and we have a lot of published authors now from the presentations that were presented 2 years ago. So we have Beto Cavalcante, we have Yuri Garcia. We'll show you. I've already posted the post in our Facebook group if anyone's interested about it. So Florin is promising that this is going to happen this year as well, which means that you guys need to sit down now and start working on the written version of your presentations, and then we can publish it very soon. And we'll be sending the details about the deadlines and everything else. Anything else, Florin?
Yeah, to entertain. Just to think about the next edition. After 1 year or after 2 years? Let us, the audience.
Yes, what you guys, I'm going to go next to present again and again and again next to people who are responsible for this event in a moment, but you couldn't see what was happening here in Brasov, and I'm not talking about evenings in Dracula pubs over here. I'm talking about academic conversations about the future of things, publications, projects. That's amazing, because there were just a bunch of us here in person, but we had people from Australia, from Ireland, from Poland, from the UK, very international. And I can tell you in secret that we already had several very interesting suggestions that we can follow for future publications, which are really, really highly held in high esteem in the UK, for instance. I'm not going to reveal anything more for now. But of course, first of all, we'll go with Bulletin here, and you will hear about other projects that hopefully are going to happen as a result of this meeting here in Brasov as well. Right, and now, because I'm monopolizing microphone, but on the other side of the internet and on the other side of the globe, we have 2 more organizers, Yuri Garcia from Brazil, which is a round of applause, yes, which is a great showman, very mischievous as well, but also very, very, very good help. And we couldn't do without him. He was actually working very hard during the conference. You can't see these things, but before the conference and during the conference, we are in 3 different continents, guys. So to organize such an event is not easy, even if we talk about the time zones difference. So thank you very much, Yuri. I'll give you the microphone in a moment, but the 4th organizer is Mr. Enrico Palafox from Mexico. Who's without whom we wouldn't look
Buenos dias from Mexico.
We wouldn't look as good as we do, because he's behind all the artwork, designs, great ideas, beautiful diplomas that people here already got, and the rest of you are going to get soon as we get back home. But over to you guys. Yuri, go first. Sorry,
Yeah.
I need to point.
Okay, thank you very much, Magda. Thank you very much, Lauren. First of all, I would like to thank these two because they are impeccable in works. Florin is somebody that is responsible for basically everything that we have in terms of logistic in this event, online and presential. So thank you very much, Florin, for making this happen. And Magda is that person that is probably gonna have to take 1 month resting after this conference because she is a total workaholic that does lots of things and reads everything, and it's difficult to work with Magda because sometimes I feel ashamed of being lazy beside her. And thank you very much, you two. It is great to work with you two. I really love working with both of you. And I would like to thank Enrique as well, because as Magda said, Enrique is the graphic designer and he is the person who can solve all of these problems that particularly I have no possibility of solving. You've all seen my PowerPoint over there. That's what I can do in terms of visual image. And Enrique is the person who can solve all of these problems and make us look good, as Magda said. And more of all, I would like to thank all of you. Hans over here, he's one of the creators of this event, and he now is experiencing a type of retirement from the organization part, but he's always a very active participant. So it's not a full retirement because he continues getting really tired with us. So thank you very much, Hans. And I would like to thank all of the speakers that accepted coming to this event. I would like the ones that are here, especially. We had Gilles Menegaldo. Thank you very much for accepting to talk in our event. It was an honor to see you talking over here. I already know your name from long before studying horror movies, studying Lovecraft. That was a very long period of my time studying Lovecraft, and you are a great reference over there. So it was an honor to have your participation over here. Sean Rourke, it's probably the most adorable person that passed through Children of the Night. Sean is, everybody loves Sean as soon as he opens his mouth. In 2 seconds, the Brazilian people are all telling me how lovely you are. Everybody loves you.
Oh, that's very sweet.
Yes,
Thank you.
do.
I love all of you guys so much.
Gareth, congratulations for facing this challenge first time in Children of the Night, being a keynote, being not from academic area and being so informative. That was very nice. Great presentation. And
thank you very much indeed. It's much appreciated.
Thank you. And I would like to thank all the participants that send resumes, send abstracts to participate in this event. Of course, it's very important for us to have all of you sending your papers. The people that are sending again and again and again constantly their papers, thank you very much for this faithful dedication and this fidelity that you have with our conference. Brian is one of these cases. Roberto, Patricia, thank you very much. And probably other people over here that I can't remember, but are people that are always sending papers. And thank you for the newcomers that are experiencing this event. If you liked this version online of the event, I would like to invite all of you to try to go to Brasov, because my experience in 2018 going to Brasov to this event was one of the most magical experiences I've ever had. It's the best event. I've passed through millions of events in all parts of the world, but undoubtedly, Children of the Night event was the best event I had in the whole world. It's extremely fun, and probably you're gonna get drunk because Florin has some tactics over there.
He knows our way.
Yeah. So thank you very much, you all, and thank you for our listeners and everybody that was over here today. That's it.
We're running out of palinka now. Keep talking, guys. Thank you so much, Yuri.
Sorry. I want to
and by
thank
the
you,
way,
everybody. I want to thank as well for my Brazilian crew. We had a Brazilian crew helping technical details over here. That was Bernardo, Ellen, Andressa. Sorry. Bernardo, Ellen, Andressa, and Roberto was part of the Brazilian crew trying to help with all technical details that we had, and was very happy we didn't have as much as we expected. So thank you very much, guys.
Yes, and on this note, I just wanted to add that we have quite a big Romanian crew here who's not here with us because it's late on Sunday. But they every day they came to check that we are all right, that the equipment works, that we are fine. So thank you so much, Florin, for arranging that. And they were absolutely sweet and great and helpful. Everyone was really, really nice here. And by the way, Yuri, just to answer what you're saying, that I'm going for a month of holiday, don't count on it. You've just charged my batteries full time. So we're sitting down to work and planning the next thing.
And tomorrow you will go to the...
And tomorrow we have the visit to Brun Castle as well with everyone who came to Brasov. All right, guys, over to Enrique Palafox. A round of applause right away.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. And saludos from Mexico. Is a half of Sunday, and you are very late, so I'm going to be brief. I'm so grateful to be here with you guys because this is our party. This is our annual party, and it's amazing to be part of this. It's like a dream. Coming from Mexico and being in a long distance call with you guys, it's amazing how we can be all together, and it doesn't matter where we are. So thank you to the team. They are an amazing team. I'm so proud of them. They work so hard. They make this happen each year, and I'm so grateful to them to count me as part of the team. Thank you to all the participants. The conversations were amazing, and you can watch them all in our channel. I will upload it this week and send it to the group so you can watch it and rewatch it because everything was amazing. So thank you, guys, and hopefully next year we will see you all together in Brasov. Thank you, guys.
Oh, thank you so much. Also, we have some listeners who are very active, so we can see Alba on the screen. So I'm going to turn to you because that was fantastic that you just come to not to participate as a speaker, but still add so much to dynamics of the conference, and the rest of you guys who are just here to observe what's happening. Thank you so much. I really don't know what to say because I've already had guys who were here. The Australian guy and then the Irish guy came in the middle of this day and presented me with flowers, and I said I'm going to cry in a moment. and there is a little ghost inside as well. It's just amazing. And as I said, yes, it's charging batteries for the next for the next part of the year. So let's not talk about being tired because the party is just beginning. Okay.
Magda, the flowers match your outfit actually.
Sorry.
The roses match your outfit. The roses match your outfit.
Thank you. Oh, of course, because I'm wearing a ridiculous outfit because we had the costume contest in the morning. and I'm still wearing it. So we went to lunch, and I was walking through town in the break, and yeah, was given some odd looks, but hey, it's Halloween, it's Transylvania, so.
This is called
I thought
dedication.
you look great. Yeah, you look great. You don't look ridiculous. You look great.
I thank you very much, and so do you. All
Oh,
of you.
not as great as you, though. Not as great as you.
All right, guys, if you want to say something, just do it. It's the party time, so you may just start. And just sorry, I know that I'm talking a lot, but about the publications is one thing. We'll get back to you in the email, but also there is the Golden Bat Award, which is going to be awarded to people as always, but we need to convene. The committee will sit down and discuss the things, and the same with and the costume contest. I'm going to post pictures tonight when I get. It might be very late at night when I get back home, so you can vote for the winner as every year. You guys are amazing. So many stimulating, fantastic presentations. I just don't know how we are going to get back to so-called real life now, because it's just amazing. Thank you so much.
Patricia wants to ask a question, make a comment, or
Yes, it's just to tell something. Can I send the photo from the contest? Because I lost the lost the time this year. So I just
Patricia, I was going to suggest it. I was going to suggest it in the private channel, because I saw your shenanigans in Brazil, and I said, oh, you have to be a participant. So please do, please do. We have
I was on Friday. On Friday, I had a party at my job, and for the contest, I supposed to organize all the things, to put the makeup and all the things, but I just lost the time. And I was completely crazy about the time, and at least I could do the presentation okay, and it was everything okay for at least the presentation. But I supposed to stay with the costume and all the things, but it didn't work out.
It's no problem. You can send the pictures. Hans has also sent the pictures already of him dressed as a Mickey Mouse. So we're going to see that tonight.
And just to thank everybody, it was amazing. I really want to see all the recordings, because I couldn't get the presentation, just some of them. And thank you for let it online, because for us it's very important. Here in Brazil it's crazy sometimes. This week was crazy, so online everything is better. And next year we hope, Yuri, Beto, and others from Brazil, we supposed to have a big bus to go to Brasov next year. Yeah.
Airbus.
I hope you will. I hope you will. That's great. Thank you so much. I think that actually, guys, it's time for us to go and drink this wine. So won't drink itself, and we deserve it.
Enjoy, you guys. You deserve it. Thank you. Thank you for everything.
But by all means, you can stay online and have a party like we had through the pandemic, because for the newcomers, we had.
I remember that party. It was a good one.
That was a good one, absolutely. So we're going to wave goodbye, yes, unless someone wants to say something.
I miss
you guys. Hopefully, we'll see you next year.
Bye bye.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much, guys. It was great.
Ciao.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you very much. Yes.
Okay.
Leave. Let's
Everyone leaving. Yeah, please post the costume contest online, all the photos, yeah?
Yeah, I just sent an email for all the Brazilians because Brazilians we lost because of the time zone. Nobody participated, so I already sent them that they can send pictures if they want to participate.
Yeah, and
Facebook
post them on the
group.
Facebook page. Yeah.
Yeah.
On the Facebook group.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Bye, everybody.
Okay.
Thank you for the great conference. See you
Bye-bye.
next year, hopefully. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye,
Bye-bye.
next
Hi,
year, hopefully.
Yuri, Patricia,
Bye.
Jill. Okay, there we go. And we move the meeting.